Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Yeah, across the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning and hello. It's a low voice Monday. So it happens when you drive all night and get up early to do the show. This is movie in a world. It's movie trailer day. I should be cutting all the movie trailers this morning and getting things ready to go. Hi, how are you? How are you guys doing? It is Monday, which is I'm sure exciting for everybody. Who ordered all the cold? My goodness, 19 degrees at my studio this morning here in the old Radio Ranch, and it is wow. It is definitely a little crisp. It's tough when it's 35 degrees in Fairbanks and 18 degrees when you pull into your house in Wasilla just a few hours later. Who signed up for the reversal? That's what I want to know. That's oof, man. All right, well, Monday, and we are continuing on with our candidate interviews. And I got to say, I was gratified this weekend while I was at the Carlson Center. Got a chance to meet and greet and say hi to a lot of you. And many of you said how much you appreciated the candidate interview portions that we've been doing right now, getting some information on all the various candidates and getting their positions on things. So I guess we did a good thing. I guess this was what we needed to do to get those candidates out there to answer questions and to talk about all the good stuff that we have going on. While I was there, it was interesting. I was actually able to wrangle a few candidates and talk with them and get them signed up for talk and discussion, including Scott Kawasaki, who's going to be joining us in just 1 week. He's going to be with us on Halloween. So same hour, same bat channel, everything else. He'll be followed by Kevin McKinley. And then on the following Wednesday, which is the 2nd of November, Jim Matherly will be joining us as well. This week, it's going to be Benjamin Vincent and Delana Johnson on Wednesday, Forrest Wolf and Liz Vasquez on Thursday. And, of course, today we're going to be talking with Kevin McKinley and Ruben McNeill, both of them Republican candidates for House District 35. And so this should be an interesting run. This should be an interesting discussion this morning. This was the only seat, House District 35, was the only seat that was that had more than 5 candidates. More than 4 candidates. They had 5 candidates in District 35. And so really it was the only seat in the entire state that the ranked choice voting component actually played into. Because every other seat had 4 candidates or less. And since ranked choice voting only affects the top 4 candidates, District 35 was the only seat that it really, really mattered in. So interesting discussions, interesting things to come about, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can discover this morning on our interviews with Kevin McKinley and Ruben McNeill. I think that more than anything else, it is important to recognize that regardless if you live in District 35, that regardless of which one you rank first, you should still rank both of them together. Both McKinley and McNeill, you should rank them both together because wow, we really need to see if we can change up that district from the blue district that it has been. This is the former district. For most of the same lines, it's been redistricted a bit, but overall, this was the same district that previously was being held by Adam Wool. So anyway, that's this morning and the rest of this week. Again, so Benjamin Vincent from Kodiak, Delana Johnson on Wednesday, Forrest Wolf, Liz Vasquez, both of Anchorage on Thursday. Not too many. I got, how many slots do I got left here? 1, 2, 3. I got 3 slots left between now and Election Day. We will not be doing any interviews on Election Day. I don't know exactly what we're going to do, but maybe we'll do a recap of the top issues and maybe a little bit of an educational forum on the Charter of Changes or something like that. So, all right. I'm ready to go. What is it? Oh, I'm sorry. We still got 8 minutes before the commercial break, so I guess I should talk about something else. How about all the politics? How about all the news that's fit to print, so to speak? Let's hit on some of that. Now, first and foremost, I want to say how sorry I am to the Cottle family. For those of you that don't know, Bert Cottle last week passed away. Now, Bert was the mayor of Valdez. He was the mayor of Wasilla. He and I didn't always agree on everything, but he was a guy that had a lot of heart and cared about the community a lot, and so it's a loss to the family and the community. Bert Cottle passing away last week at the age of 69 years old. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the Cottle family. And like I said, even though we didn't agree, there was a guy who at least believed in his community enough to stand up and do what needed to be done. And so and run for office and do all that kind of stuff. So big thanks to him for all his work. And again, thoughts go out to the family as we continue. Oh, I don't know. Let's see. What even does anything even surprise you anymore in today's world of politics? Here's something that was no surprise to me or really anyone else who's been following this for many years, but it's now official. Senator Lisa Murkowski is not ranking the red. No. She's voting for Mary Peltola for Congress. She put it out on Twitter. And it was replayed and relayed by reporters out there. She has been very friendly with Peltola since Peltola won the temporary seat, and she has continued to court that. Now, Republicans, of course, have been ranking the red. That's what their message has been: ranking all the Republican candidates in a single race. But with Murkowski, since she was actually asked by the Republican Party to leave the party, that's not what's going on. By backing Peltola, the Shabaka campaign has said that Murkowski is also backing Nancy Pelosi. Is this a Hail Mary, or is it her only obvious path to victory, asks Suzanne Downing. Murkowski knows that about 90% of Republicans are lost to her. I think that's a high number, quite honestly. I don't think that it's quite that high. This is again Suzanne Downing talking. I don't know that it's 90% of Republicans are lost to her. I would maybe 80, but I mean it's a big chunk for sure. But at this point, Murkowski is doing exactly what she did back in 2010 in overcoming Joe Miller via that write-in. She is dependent on Democratic voters. I mean, does anybody remember Scott Adams? Does anybody in the chat room or listening right now, do you even remember who Scott Adams was? Scott Adams, for those of you who don't know, was the Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate in 2010. And after Murkowski lost the primary to Joe Miller, he was subsequently, he, being Scott Adams, was subsequently thrown under the bus by the Democratic Party as they went all in on Lisa Murkowski and supported her and did everything they can to get to support her write-in campaign. It was an unprecedented. I mean, it was, it made the national news. It did all that kind of stuff. So this just seems to be more of the, same, where she is now, explicitly saying which side of her bread is buttered and knowing where she needs to go. She needs to court the Democrats to be able to get a stable, solid position in that race. What appears to be, to most of us who are very cynical, that it is a purely political move more than anything else. Although, I guess maybe not purely political, because again, probably she and Mary Peltola have more values, goals, and positions in common than anything else. Politics, and more politics. It's continued. It's happened. This broke late last week on Friday, and then on Saturday, a new lawsuit has come out. Downing called it the politics of personal destruction. The Kenai Peninsula Borough and Mayor Charlie Pierce former Mayor Charlie Pierce have now been named in a lawsuit by his former executive assistant, who said that he sexually harassed her. Not just a harassment lawsuit, which has been known in the past, but no, now that he sexually harassed her. And unfortunately, this appears to be, again, driven by a lot of politics. Before Pierce had even been served on charges, according to Must Read, the ADN had already been given the documents and broken the story. And before anybody else had a chance to comment on it. And I'm not going to get down into the details, the nitty-gritty details of it, but this complaint alleges that he was sexually harassing and bullying this gal named Wastles, and all kinds of different comments and objections on this. All comments and all questions have been referred to his attorney. And I don't know if this is just another October surprise, 11th hour thing. If there's any, I mean, I don't know. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty. I haven't seen anything. I haven't followed anything other than the news story on it. But of course, again, all the timing on this is always questionable. I mean, here we are. It was Friday. It's anything that happens within like 3 weeks of Election Day, you got to at least ask yourself the question: what was this all about? Why does this come out now? Especially since this gal who filed the complaint has not worked there since June or May or June or something, and just now it's coming about. And of course, there's been rumors about this bouncing around forever. I don't know. It's just the whole political thing is such a crazy business anyway. But it's out there. If you want to go dig into it and read into what is available, you can go see it. There's articles both up in Must Read and up on the ADN as well. All right. We're up against it. I guess that's it. We're ready to go. We're going to hit this thing, and we are going to come back in just a moment with Kevin McKinley, candidate for House District 35, who will be joining us, and we'll see where this goes. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return with more in just a moment. And our candidates from House District 35, starting off with Kevin McKinley right after this.
is that?
Common sense.
Regularly heard on American radio.
Michael Duke Show. Radio.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning. How are you guys this morning? You ready to go? Let me go back to the top here. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Has anyone had problems getting their absentee ballots? They sent ours to our home address instead of the address we gave them in Wyoming. Well, Fanumi hadn't had her coffee or something earlier this morning, so that's where it all started out. Good morning. 13 degrees in the hook. I need to wear socks. Oh, my dad's in the chat room. Hello, Dad. I wanted to go up and see Mom and Dad this weekend, but I was literally running from daylight to dark every day. I'll be back for the auction in November. I'll come and see you guys then. I was wondering how you did, Michael. I saw your pic with Rob at the Carlson Center last night. Figured you'd be driving most of the night. Yeah, I pulled in here close to midnight last night and then was up at the crack of pre-dawn. I'm going through here. See what else you guys are talking about here. Conservatives should shake up their party leadership and demand some sticking to a conservative platform instead of supporting quasi-democrats. Did you feel that? The earth just lurched a little bit. I just agreed with Harold on that. All right. I see Kevin McKinley has joined us in the green room. And so we're going to get to him here in just a hot second and test his audio and all that other kind of stuff. Okay. All right. Let me go over here and we'll add Kevin to the broadcast and check his audio and everything here this morning. Good morning, my friend. How are you doing this morning? You ready to go? Kevin, can you hear me?
Yeah, Michael. How am I doing there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You need to. Don't watch the
Michael?
Facebook.
Yes.
I can hear you. Don't watch the Facebook stream at the same time because the stream is behind. So if you just watch, are you just watching on the software that I gave you? Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. All right.
Yeah, Michael, I can't hear you at all.
Let's try this with let's see, what can I do here?
And I don't have the
Let me try this.
Oh,
You got it?
I think so.
You got it now? You have to unmute the little microphone there. You ready? You can hear me now? You can hear me now. All right.
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Good. All right. Well, we're all good to go then. All right. Kevin McKinley, our guest for House District 35. We're going to chat with him here in just a second. I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page and it's good to go. All right, Kevin, I'm going to drop you back into the green room here for just a second, and I will be back to you here in a moment. Don't go anywhere. All right. Any other comments here? See, just going through here to see, explains why he stopped campaigning, says Chris on Twitch when he was talking about Charlie Pierce. Terry says she absolutely does not believe this about Pierce. Knowing Charlie for the last 4 years, I kind of find it hard to believe as well, but again, I wasn't there, so we'll have to see how that all goes. I still believe in the innocence and presumption thing. I know a couple of people in the borough, says Jeannie. The majority of employees there like Charlie, never a question where they stood. That's good to know. Okay. And yeah. Hey, isn't he the one that had COVID a couple of years ago? He's talking about Kevin McKinley. Yeah, Kevin was one of the first people that I knew that had COVID, and it was it was pretty wicked. So we may touch on that as well, but we're going to get into this here in just a hot second. Like it, share, follow. Let's do this. Here we go. All right, welcome back to the program. It is the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska and on the internet across the world as well. We're here to talk about candidates. Who's got your candidates? I do. Today it's for House District 35. In fact, it's a twofer for House District 35. Starting off in this hour with Kevin McKinley, who is no stranger to the game of politics. He ran here a few years ago for this same district. He comes back and joins us this morning to talk about his candidacy and everything that is going on. Kevin McKinley, our guest. Good morning, my friend. How are you doing?
Good morning, Michael.
It's
just a quick note. It's not quite the same district. We added a couple precincts to it.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. It went a little bit bluer apparently as we went through there, so that's all good. Kevin, let's start fresh here so that people can get a feel for where you're at. Tell us a little bit about you, who you are, where you come from. Let's start there, and we'll move on to the political and philosophical aspects from there.
My name is Kevin McKinley. As Michael said, I'm a candidate for House District 35. And I have ran before. I'm a business owner. I've been self-employed for about 32 years now. And I know what it's like to write a paycheck and make sure that your budget balances. And I think that in government, we need more of that. And I also think that we need more business people and less lawyers running.
Yeah, that would be a good thing, wouldn't it? Get more entrepreneurs in there who actually know how to write a paycheck and what it takes and to get some of that stuff done. Kevin, what initially made you decide to run for office? I mean, you and we've gone over this before. Kevin and I, just full disclosure, Kevin and I are friends. We've been friends for a long time. But, tell everybody else out there why in the world, as a business owner, and we know usually, especially how entrepreneurs, how busy they are, what exactly made you decide, I don't have enough on my plate, let me run for office as well?
I think originally it started off with regulations and how they started regulating my industry years back,
right.
And just watching Juneau and seeing how they operated. And, it's the typical story, where I was complaining about it and somebody says, well, you should do something about it. And that person that originally said that was David Pruse. We knew each other from Shriners and stuff like that.
Right.
And, or Masons, I think. Anyway, I ended up kind of looking into it. I ended up going to a couple of luncheons and then just started getting involved and said, yeah, I can do this. And if I'm gonna complain about it, I should step up and do something.
Yeah, no, exactly. Either that or shut your pie hole. Stop complaining if you're not going to do something about it, right? Yep. Kevin, your district is, again, kind of a tough district to begin with. Again, this was the district that was previously held by Adam Wool, now with some new additions to make it even bluer. Right. But go ahead.
And before that, it was Pete Higgins, who was a Republican. So at one time, there was a Republican that held that seat for quite a while.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so now you've had a chance. I know you've been out walking the district, talking to people, knocking on doors, doing all that. You've been campaigning, all summer and everything. So what are your constituents concerned about? Is it the PFD? Is it the economy? Is it the crime? Is it inflation? Is it ranked choice voting? Is it all of the above? Give me a rundown here of the top things that your constituents, when you're sitting on their door. That was always my favorite part, because standing on their doorstep in their own environments and listening to them, gripe in some ways, but also just share their feelings with you in a one-on-one basis. What are they concerned about?
Well, first off, I'd like to say that this campaign season, since I get to compare these this campaign to a couple previous campaigns, it's been really interesting because people are more apt to share this cycle than ever I've ever have seen before. And you knock on somebody's door and they'd find out who you are, and you're like, you want to hear what I have to say about politics in the state? Yeah, here we go.
Here comes the floodgates. Let me tell you how it is. So what are they talking about?
Well, first you got to realize that District 35 is a huge district.
Oh, yeah.
And so we get a lot of diversity in as far as economic and, everything. So I would say one of the interesting things is that the previous campaigns, crime was never a big issue.
Right.
It was in real select precincts, but now I'm seeing it more and more and more. And it was just kind of on my, my little card to make sure to ask about crime. And in the beginning of the campaign, all of a sudden I started hearing it in places I've never heard before. And I'm like, really, you have a crime problem now? Because remember, years ago I knocked on your door and you didn't have a crime problem. Because, well, this one house next door, they're a problem now, and we keep calling the police, and nothing's getting done about it. And we keep calling over and over and over, and we just can't get them out of there. So crime has actually moved up on the notch of concerns. I think the PFD is always going to be one of those in the ranking. Previously I was definitely one or two. I think it's kind of dropped down a little bit. Inflation, and energy prices have absolutely moved up into the top 1 and 2 ranks.
Yeah.
And so many times I've had this, the I don't want to say the pleasure, but be kind of honored to hear what people were, wanting to bear to me, and you're just like, yeah, I really feel your pain. You're filling up your fuel tank. It's just really, really hard on a lot of people out there. And so the winter, I think, is going to be kind of heavy on a lot of people.
Well, this winter definitely, I had many people stop and talk to me this weekend at the show and talk specifically about, the cost of living, inflation, and how nice it would have been to get that PFD so they could have filled their tank with a lot less pain. A lot of people were talking about, $5 and $6 a gallon heating oil, and what were they doing?
Yeah.
And when did they fill up? Did they catch it on the high? Did they catch it on the quote unquote low, and everything else? This is definitely going to be a tough winter for a lot of folks, but again, not surprised. It seems like pretty much, inflation, economy, and PFD seem to be leading the list, with crime down there somewhere at the 3rd or 4th rank for most of the candidates that we've talked to. And so we're seeing some similarities. And that brings us, of course, over to the discussions of, in the legislature, as you tackle this, if you are elected to this office, what are some of the first steps you're going to be taking? Are you going to be taking, trying to work on that PFD to get that, that volleyball off the court, so to speak, so we can talk about other things? Or what's your position here?
It definitely is a ball that keeps getting batted back and forth, for sure. And, you mentioned about the PFD and the fuel prices. A bigger PFD absolutely would have made a difference. It kind of, when you look at it, you got this bigger PFD check with a fuel supplement in there, but the fuel prices went up so high that it was almost like getting a regular PFD again.
Right, exactly. Well, and I think, we need to revisit here. I mean, you support a full statutory PFD. I mean, should they be following the law or changing the law if they don't want to follow it? I mean, shouldn't there be something that has to happen there?
Absolutely. It is kind of frustrating. Well, and there's another thing added to there, Michael, that we got to think of, is that, I hate to say it, in the old days, that it was the first call. And I think that's a really important part that a lot of people forget, is that we kind of have this PFD that they kind of wait and say, well, what do we have left? I guess this is what we'll throw at it. And I think that's got to stop. I think that's one of the main things that really needs to change. Besides being a statutory PFD, I think that it's important to a lot of people. You look at how a lot of people survive on it. It's going to be like I said before, it's going to be a hard winter. And there are a lot of people out there that have just come out and said, if you're not going to give me my PFD, then change the law. And I get it. But
Yeah,
they say and the amount of people that are getting frustrated seems like they're getting more and more.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is frustrating. I mean, either follow the law or take the law off the books or change it or do whatever you need to do. I mean, you're right. It did have first call. Thank you, Bill Walker, for changing how the state accounted for the PFD. It used to be a simple transfer, and the people had first call on it, and it was their share of the money. That's what happened. They got their half, government got their half, and everybody was fat, dumb, and happy. Unfortunately, government, as is its nature, has continued to grow and continued to consume basically all the oxygen in the room and all the money in the room, and that's what they want to keep doing. We're talking with Kevin McKinley, by the way, candidate for House District 35. So follow the law.
I was going to add one little comment in there, is that one side had to budget their money and one side didn't.
That's it. I love it. As a business owner, I mean, you've got to live within your means. You can't just be like, well, I was going to charge you, $100 for this, but now I'm going to charge you $200 because, my expenses are up. And I'm sorry. That's just how it is. So thank you for that extra $100. Entrepreneurs can't do that. Businesses can't do that. Private citizens can't do that. We have to live within our means. I mean, we can borrow a little bit. We can spend on the card, but that can only be done for a short period of time before the bill comes due, right? So
you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
The consequences are immediate, well, almost immediate when you start living outside your budget as a business owner and a private citizen.
Yeah.
Private citizens are the big budgers out there, because if they live outside their means, the effects of that are pretty swift.
Well, we always hear, well, you can't compare government to a business. You can't compare government to your private. I mean, that's just not how it works. Well, that's how it should work. I mean, any government that lives beyond its means is, basically writing its own demise sometime in the future. If all you're doing is taking in more and more, I mean, you're going to start, you're hurting the economy, right? I mean, again, you're a business owner. Back in the days when we got a full PFD, you saw a real impact on that, right? In your business and in other businesses, you saw that impact hit the economy.
It was huge. It was bigger than Christmas. And I don't want to make light of that, comparing it to Christmas, but because a lot of retail businesses out there, that was their one time of the year that they had to make all the money or the biggest part, of their revenue for the year.
Right.
And then they had to budget that for the rest of the year.
Right.
And years ago, it was a really big turnout, for people going out and shopping and purchasing. And then, nowadays, we call it the PFD season. It's real short. People are really watching their money and being really tight with it, which I don't blame them, for the economic circumstances that we're in. But we are seeing a difference absolutely out there in spending. And I've talked to a lot of other business owners that are saying the same thing. It's not just my business out there.
Right. No, I mean, it's you talk about the billions of dollars that get dropped into the economy. It's going to have an effect. I mean, there's a knock on for sure. Would you support the idea of enshrining the PFD formula in the Constitution so that the legislature can't ignore it? I know that's been a talking point. I know the governor tried to do that. People have argued that that's really the only way to get them to follow the law, is to not have it be statute, which they can ignore, but to be constitutional, because then they can't ignore it. Would you support that?
Yeah, I think that something needs to be done, and it's interesting how we talked to a lot of people about the PFD. And earlier, there was a guy I used to talk to. His name was Sterling Gallagher, and he helped, I guess, write the PFD, or was the math wizard behind it. And a lot of other people that really thought that the PFD was this bad idea. And over the years, there's a lot of people now that are coming around, not as me, and saying, well, we've got to do something with this. And
right.
This is the only way that we can stop this from being this, as you said, a volleyball that we keep batting back and forth across the net. Yeah, I think so. And I don't know exactly how you would enshrine it, to be honest, whether it's the formula or the verbiage would be. But yeah, I think it needs to go into the Constitution. And then, maybe the legislature can get something else done in that 90 days.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, if they didn't have this to talk about and this to fight over, they'd have to admit and look at the hard, cold facts of, well, you can't dip into that pot of money anymore. So what you got left? Meaning you've been spending too much. I mean, that's kind of the bottom line. Quickly here, we're going to take a quick break.
Can I make a quick comment on that? Is that I hear a lot of people complain about the legislature not taking up a bill that's really concerning to them. And that's something that needs to be addressed too out there, is that there's a lot of business that's not getting done just because of this one topic that we keep batting back and forth.
Right. Well, I've argued that some people in the legislature don't seem to want to fix that problem because, again, it gives them some political cover to continue to grow the budget and make that argument and not have to fight about it. But we'll continue our discussions here in just a moment with Kevin McKinley, GOP candidate for House District 35. When we get back, we'll talk education, we'll talk ranked choice voting, and more. It is the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
Our light, our guide, and our trusted friend. Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're in the break right now. Kevin McKinley continues with us out there on the airwaves. We like to change gears during the commercial break so we don't repeat ourselves for the podcast. Kevin, what's the most surprising thing that you found out on the trip? Give me, if you look back and say, okay, all the stuff since this campaign, give me some of the surprises. What are the things that you've been like, really? Give me some shock here. What's hit you a couple times?
I don't know if it's shocking, but I find a trend in my district that keeps happening. And I knocked on this door, and the guy answers the door, the husband, and I can tell there's kids in there, and he's kind of pushing the door shut. No, we don't need any. My wife's asleep. He's just rolling out the get out of here,
get off my porch, right?
And I see somebody in the back that's kind of getting dressed and running towards the door, and he goes, "Oh, yeah, here's my wife." And he just moved out of the way, and she says, "Well, I have a couple of questions." That's been the big thing lately is that they wanted to say that I just want to take a minute of your time because I know that you're in a hurry. And she asked me what kind of the question that you asked is one of the big things that happens to you on the campaign trail. And I said, one of the things that happens to me is that I'll be talking to somebody, and because of the district, we have a lot of educators and people from universities, schools, and so forth.
Right.
I said, somebody will start talking to me about education, and then they'll just grill me. And then right at the end, before I, step off of their porch, they'll say, "Oh, by the way, I'm a teacher." And the lady looked at me, and so we started talking about education. She said that she's got, I believe it was 3 kids in school and having a very difficult time. They weren't great students, and what is she going to do, and so forth. And the school's in I want to say disarray, but it's not working well. And I said, well, and she asked me, she goes, "What's my solution for it?" And I said, I said, I'm a big school choice person. And one of the things I keep hearing on the campaign trail, I know it's not shocking, but it's that this is becoming bigger and bigger, is that the parents want to know or have a say in what the kids are learning and how they're learning it. And she goes, "Well, how do you plan on doing that?" And I said, "Well, you got to understand, I'm a business person. And so I believe that competition breeds excellence."
Right.
And she says, "Well, so what are you saying?" I said, "Well, are you saying that you're going to have more schools out there?" And I said, "Well, for a time there would be, because, we need to open it up to where we can have private schools and so forth." And right at the end, she goes, "I hate to do this to you," but she goes, "I'm a teacher."
Well, I mean,
yeah. And I looked at her, and she goes, "I was shocked that you said that, because like so many people do that to you, and I didn't want to be one of those people, but after we started talking, I didn't want to let it out because, I didn't want you to, change how you were answering the questions. And
Right.
so I think the big shocker is that um,
Even
just being
teachers are having problems with the system,
yeah,
right?
even the teachers are having problems with the system. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we're going to get into that here in a minute with education. But yeah, I mean, I think that if there's any good that came out of the pandemic, it is that people, first of all, it exposed all the cracks and the fractures in the school system and what was actually wrong. And it also showed people that there are alternatives to brick and mortar schools, with the learning pods and charter schools and homeschooling and everything else. It showed people that there are choices and that they're not as dire. Remember when they used to paint homeschooling as, oh my God, your children will all be backward, retarded. They won't be able to speak to people. They won't know how to interact. They'll be like, oh, they'll hide. I mean, of course, none of that was ever true. But if you ever met a homeschooling child, you knew that that wasn't necessarily
Right.
true. But I
And
mean, they discovered it wasn't as hard as they thought it was.
and the one thing that I've learned out there too is that I believe that there's no one right silver bullet to this. There's
Sure.
there's not just one
Yeah.
single answer because we have the parents out there and the families. They're so varied in how they operate that, and I think that just shows that there needs to be a choice.
Well, even children
So,
are different. I mean, I've put
mhm,
5 different children through homeschooling, and each one learns in a different way, and so you have to take each one on their own merits and make those changes. All right, well, we're going to jump back into it here, folks. If you haven't, please like and follow the page. Share this video with everybody else. Let's get more Alaskans involved in the conversation. And you can also, of course, always go out to YouTube if you're not getting notifications on Facebook. YouTube is very good about giving notifications every morning when we go live. So make sure you subscribe. Kevin's nodding. Subscribe and ring the bell to get those notifications. Speaking of bell, that means we got to get back into it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. All right, we're continuing now with Kevin McKinley, GOP candidate for House District 35. Just talked a bit about the PFD, and we kind of brushed into the discussion on education here during the break. And we'll start off there. I mean, since education is the second largest component of the budget, Kevin was just talking about how he's met with a lot of people on their doorstep, and they've asked him a lot of questions about education, and then finished up with the fact that, oh, by the way, I'm a teacher. But he's acknowledging that even teachers are noticing that there's stuff, systemically wrong with the current system that we have right now. And of course, all the Democratic talking points and the moderate talking points these days seems to be around the fact that we're just not giving enough money to education. So, Kevin, what's your take on education? I mean, is it a money problem? Is it a systemic problem? Should there be more options for people? And if so, what should it be, in your opinion?
I think that one of the things that we're finding out after the pandemic is you mentioned that while we were in the break room, that it really changed how we look at education. It I say that it kind of took the makeup off, and we got to kind of see the system for really, how it is.
Right.
It was kind of like a fast forward, and my belief is that we need more options. And I'm not saying that one option is better than the other. What I'm saying is that when you have more options, like out there in the marketplace, um, I believe that people compete, and during that competition, I believe that the people benefit from that.
Right. Well,
Because
you said
they're striving.
you said competition breeds excellence, right? I mean, that's
Correct.
that's from entrepreneurship. I mean, competition is healthy and good.
And that's what we're looking for is excellence in education. We want our kids, K through 12 to graduate and be able to read, write, math, English, science. We
Right.
need those skills. And even
So
in my
you
business now, I'm hiring people that aren't as proficient as they used to be.
Right, I know. So, I mean, school choice. I mean, is that vouchers? Should it be backpack funding where the money follows the student, and then the parents could, put them in private school or put them in a learning pod or do independent learning or do homeschooling. I mean, what do you think is the best choice there?
I do like the idea of the money following the kid or the child,
Right.
the student. This is the better way to put that.
Right.
And I think with that, you really I believe that parents are going to be more involved because they have to make a choice now. They
Right.
have to be a part of this process, and I think that with that, we're going to start seeing more choices evolve out of that.
Yeah.
And then you're going to see your brick and mortars start to look at it and say, well, what do we need to do to be able to compete?
Right.
It's kind of like the university that all of a sudden decided, I don't want to say all of a sudden, but they started realizing they had to compete in the online world of education.
Right. Well, and of course, when they were faced with the shortfall, the first thing they finally, well, not the first thing, but the last thing they finally did was acknowledge that they had 3 separate university systems and maybe they needed to consolidate to save money. And of course, they dodged the bullet on that and didn't do it. But, we've got 53 school districts across the state, some of them with as few as a couple hundred kids. And each one of those districts has got a duplicative, structure and administration. And, we've seen the school enrollment across the state continue to decline steadily over the years. And yet the administrative cost continues to go up. I mean, at one point, you've got to say, we got too many administrators, not enough teachers. We got too few students. Something's got to change.
Definitely the system could be run more efficiently.
Yeah.
And that's just this kind of one-on-one business is that if you're not efficient in what you do, you can be really good at what you do and you're not efficient and your longevity is in jeopardy.
You're not going to make any money, that's for sure. All right, Kevin McKinley, our guest. Kevin, one of the big things, of course, it's on the ballot every 10 years is the Constitutional Convention, and we've seen all the fear and all the, I'm so scared. It's going to be dark money, right? I mean, it's just, all these things. And I'll admit, at the very beginning when they first broached it, I thought, that's concerning. But I've come to realize that there's also a cost in not doing anything at all, and the cost is continuing with the madness that we have now. What's your take on the Constitutional Convention? Do you support it? And are those the changes that we can make it?
Yeah, I'll be really upfront and quick with you. I have been fairly against it. I'm kind of like you, where I've been listening a lot to the pros and cons of it, and my take is on it is that I think we're going to go through a big process, and I don't know if the convention is going to get us anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, that's the part that I keep kind of getting stuck on. And when I was talking to some people last Friday about the Constitutional Convention, and this process is going to take a year, maybe 4 years.
4 years. It'll probably take 4 years. But I guess my question is, if at least we've had the conversation, I mean, what in the end, the people get to vote on it and everything else. And again, all I have to do is look at the people who are fighting against the Constitutional Convention.
That part bothers me.
The 1630 Fund, the NEA, the IBEW, all these different, at some point you just got to go, why shouldn't we at least start the conversation? Because the legislature is obviously not going to fix these things.
I keep wishing they would. I keep wishing is that they've done it 28 times. They've made constitutional amendments, and I think that they should be able to do it again.
Right. Except for that lack of political will.
We need to elect people that would vote for it. Yeah. All right. My big answer is on this is that I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and people say that I'm flip-floppy, and I have been out there and been on both sides of it. I just went to an AMA conference recently and listened to them talk. I'm a member of the Alaska Miners Association, and they came out really against the Constitutional Convention for the fact that that duration that this convention is happening, it'll affect investment in Alaska. So
well, I mean, look, there's a danger to everything. There's a danger to doing something. Sure. There's a danger to doing nothing. And I, like you, I mean, if you want to call it flip-flopping, I initially was very cautious. And now I've decided that we have to give it a try. I mean, other states have done dozens of constitutional conventions over the years, and it hasn't been the end of the world. So we'll have to figure it out. I don't want to take up too much more time with this.
Sure.
We're coming down to the end here. We got just a couple minutes. Kevin, what would be your number one thing if you got voted into office and were sworn in today? What's tomorrow look like? What do you start with on your way in?
I think that one of the things I would start with first is crime. Go into some of the neighborhoods and just hearing the desperation in a lot of their voices about what do we do.
Yeah.
And I was at a luncheon, and the police chief Eric Spitzer, and so I started bringing it up to him, and I was trying not to say street names and the house numbers and so forth. And he just blurted it out. He was like, "Oh, you're talking about this guy's house and on this street," and says, "We're very aware of that and trying to get that done." And I was like, "Well, what do we need to do to get that done?" And so crime is going to be a big one. Absolutely. Good. That's going to be really on top.
Kevin, down to less than 2 minutes here, so I want to give you a chance to give us your elevator pitch. Why should they vote for you? I'm assuming you're supporting ranking the Reds, so vote number 1 for you, vote number 2 for your Republican compatriot, and then go on from there.
Absolutely.
Give us the pitch.
And I think that ranking the red is really important. I'm going to hit on that for a moment because we've heard there's a senator out there that's not ranking the red, and I'm just shaking my head at that. I just don't even know what to say about it. I don't want to spend much time on it. But ranking the red is very important out there, and if we don't do that, that's a sure way of putting somebody that we don't want in this seat.
Right.
This is the seat. This is the district that has the only real race out there that had what they call a jungle primary and then ranked choice voting after that. And so I ask everybody out there that's voting in District 35 to rank the red. Just to wrap me up, I see a little 1 minute thing left. I'm Kevin McKinley. I'm running for State House District 35. I'm a businessman, and I want to change Alaska. I want to make Alaskans for Alaskans.
All right, Kevin McKinley, you can find him at alaskansforkevinmckinley.com. That's his website where you can find out more information about him. And of course, he's out and about walking the districts and everything else, so be on the lookout for him. Kevin McKinley, thank you, my friend, for coming on board and joining us today. As always, it's good to talk to you. And I look forward to seeing you down in Juneau.
Michael, good to talk to you, too. And it was good to see you out at the convention, the show this weekend.
Yeah.
Did you try the shooters? Did you?
I did. I've done it before, but I didn't. We're out of time, folks. We'll see you in the next hour. All right, Kevin. I'll give you a final bite here. How about a 2-minute window here or so for you? Anything that I didn't hit on, anything that you think is important that your constituents are talking about, or anything that we didn't touch on? Now's the time.
Absolutely. There's a big one that we left out. There's a huge one that we left out.
Okay.
My district, like a lot of other ones, there's a lot of people that hunt and fish in my district, and 2A is Second Amendment is really becoming a a big deal. As you know, I had a 2A event, and it was a lot of fun. It was good for people to come out there and talk about their concerns. And what really gets me is that we have a candidate that's not Ruben or me. It's Ashley Carrick, that used to be or still is the chief of staff for Adam Wool. And you got to remember that Adam is the one that put out that bill, HB 203, that was the safe storage bill, which was full of unintended consequences of basically making law-abiding, safe gun owners criminals. And so be aware of that we always have got to protect our Second Amendment rights. It's always on the table.
Yeah, one of the most entertaining debates on the floor was Adam Wool being educated by others that gun manufacturers already included trigger locks with all their guns and safety locks with all their guns. And he was just absolutely sure that wasn't the case. And of course, this is, again, the unintended consequences of people who don't understand things like firearms, trying to make rules and regulations on things like firearms. So, yeah, it's good to know that there are people like you and Ruben and others and other Republicans out there who believe that, your rights shouldn't be infringed. And this makes no sense, especially in Alaska.
And they want to put a bill out there or create a law out there that's not going to do anything about crime. It's not going to save lives. It's not going to reduce the crime statistics. And so be aware of that when you hear these bills like safe gun stories and things like that, it's kind of a misnomer.
Yeah. No, those laws are always, I have to chuckle on that because, that's the thing. Oh, we're trying to say, well, are you really? The only thing that you might possibly save on most of those situations is a potential suicide, which is, a good thing, don't get me wrong. But to criminalize a whole swath of Alaskans simply to do something like that makes no sense whatsoever. And of course, they never talk about the enforcement mechanism. They never talk about any of that other stuff. It's more of, I think, just virtue signaling to say, look at me, I did what I needed to do to stand up and fight those laws. So it's, and especially since your opponent, Ashley Carrick, actually, authored that bill and wrote it for Adam. That's kind of, it just a kind of a preview of things to come. So
everybody be aware of that out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That our Second Amendment rights are up for this reelection, and it's important. And I think that we haven't had that discussion enough in this election.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right. Well, Kevin McKinley, House District 35. Again, AlaskansForKevinMcKinley.com is the website. I've got a link up in the chat room there. You should be able to see it no matter where you're watching it. What is this, Firearms Monday? No, it's a bill that's in the, oh, never mind. I got the troll. Our resident troll is making himself heard in the chat room today. All right. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for coming on board, my friend. Good luck to you. Again, rank all the red in this district and make sure you vote for McKinley and Ruben and McNeill at this point. And we'll get one of you in there, and it'll be good change for Alaskans. Kevin, thank you so much, my friend, for coming.
Thank you, Michael.
Appreciate you being part of it today. Kevin McKinley, our guest here on the program for today. All right, we're waiting for Ruben McNeill to join us. He should be joining us in the chat room here, in the green room here any minute, and we'll be getting down onto that and talking about it. Every day is a good day for firearms, says Jennifer. You're not wrong. You're not wrong, especially when we're talking with potential candidates who would be voting and talking about that kind of stuff. It's good. Let me go back here. And Bill Price, we were talking about the miners being against opening the Constitution. And he said, of course they did. Mining is effectively not taxed at all, which he's not wrong. It's like a 3% severance tax, which, of course, is a net profit scheme. It makes no sense whatsoever. I would like to see, I've advocated for years that we need to review our mining taxation in this state and that it should be different. But I guess we'll see what happens as we go through. All righty. Let me see. What else we got here? Going back through the thing. Randy saying that we shouldn't talk about enshrining of free money, which it's not free money. It's your money. Sandy points out that the pandemic threw IDEA's enrollment up to 10,000 students statewide. And that they're still up there. People saw the firsthand benefits of homeschooling and how IDEA can incorporate private school, public school, and various local classes. I think IDEA was probably one of the ones that was there leading the charge, but all the homeschooling programs saw a huge bump in their enrollments post COVID, because the local school systems did such a pathetic job of pulling it all together. It's insane. All right. Hey, I saw Robbie. Robbie's in the chat room. I met Robbie this weekend at the show. It was good to see you guys there. Good to see you there, Robbie. And of course, good to see a lot of others that came in and saw us there as well. So thanks for coming out and joining us. All right. Well, we're waiting for Ruben. I don't know where he's at, but he should be here in just a second, and hopefully we'll crack into this and get things going on. We will continue. I guess we'll just start right here. Just keep things going. I saw Barbara as well. Saw Tammy Wilson, saw Rob Myers, Frank Tomaszewski. I saw a whole bunch of people this weekend. All right, folks, you ready to go? Let's get it going on. Hour 2, The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out themichaeldukesshow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Duke Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet and around the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator, The Michael Duke Show. We are waiting on, Ruben McNeill here to be joining us here. He's going to join us as GOP candidate for District 35. I sent out the emails this morning. I talked to him yesterday and said he was looking forward to it, but he hasn't quite joined us yet, so we'll see if there's a technical difficulty or something else. We will get him on board here in just a second and talk about things. We just finished up with Kevin McKinley, who is also a Republican candidate for District 35, and he struck on something very late in the interview where he again was talking about ranking the red, that it was important that you vote for him and that you vote for Ruben as well. Ruben says you're in the chat room. Ruben, check your email. There's a link in your email that you have to follow to get on board so that we can do the video together, you and me. So go check your email real quick and follow that link and get into the green room here, and we'll be on board together. Okay, so if you're watching on the chat room right now, go check your email. All right, but yeah, I think that's important. You may not like ranked choice voting, and I know many of you don't. I mean, I'm not a fan of it either, but it is the system that we have, and so if we're going to be forced to use it, then we should utilize it to the best of its ability. This is why I was so disappointed early on in the Palin campaign, as they were basically just say, rank me and don't do anything else. Rank one and done, because it's a protest against ranked choice. That's not going to help anything. If you want to protest against ranked choice voting, I'm all about that. But the only way you can play the game, or the only way you can win the game, is to play the game. And that may not be what you want to do. I mean, I certainly don't want to have to play that game, but otherwise we're going to get killed, as it was very obvious there in this last go round. That's what happened in the whole Peltola debate, is that it was very obviously both Begich and Palin had a whole lot of people who was one and done, and then others voted for Peltola back and forth. And so, again, ranking the red is the important, I think, message that needs to come out in all these different districts as well. All right, I see that Ruben McNeill has now joined us in the green room, and so we're going to go on over there, and we'll pick things up with him and see what he has to say, and we'll start off right now. Good morning, Ruben. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
All right. Well, good morning, and thanks for coming on board and joining us today. Let's get things started, and we'll just give people a little bit of background. Ruben, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you come from, a little bit of history lesson, and then we'll move on into the politics, so to speak, of the situation. Let's get started.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Michael. Excited to do your show. I appreciate the invite. I'm a Fairbanks guy. I've been in Fairbanks since '89, but I'm actually Alaskan, born to a military father and a stay-at-home mom. So I've been in and out of Alaska for a long time, throughout my whole life. But I've been here since '89. I was raised in a very conservative family, so I really don't know anything thing else but conservatism and loving your country, proud of the colors. I am a UAF graduate. I built my house with the help of my family back in 2007-8. And I have built a medical career, an outpatient medical career here in Fairbanks since about '98. And I am the Lone Ranger up here in Alaska. My sister and her family moved out about 10 years ago, and my father followed here a few years. He's got health issues, but Alaska's in my heart. I love Alaska. I love the lifestyle. I love the people. I have a job where I have an intimate relationship with people. I do outpatient care, or I did outpatient care, where I would go into people's homes and I met people on a very personal level, and I have a deep fondness for them, and so that's where I come from, Michael.
When exactly did you decide that, boy, you don't have enough to do, so let me decide to run for office? I mean, when exactly did you lose your mind and decide that was a good idea? Was it a single issue that just kind of tipped you over the edge, or was it something cumulative?
You know what? It's probably cumulative. I didn't give a rat's rear end about politics up until 9/11. Honestly, I was moose hunting. Me and my father and my uncle were moose hunting on September 10th, and I actually shot a moose on September 10th, and we gutted them and took some out and went home and came back the next morning to the news that a tower was hit and all that stuff. So, both my uncle and my father were military. They're like, something's going on, something isn't right. They're going to start locking things down. Well, my hunting area is accessed by the pipeline. So we quick geared up to go get the rest of the moose out. And I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything else until I got home that afternoon, and found out that the towers had fallen and the Pentagon had been hit and all that stuff. And I have to tell you, Michael, it was like someone flipped on the light switch for me, and I really felt that America changed at that time. And I started getting a little bit more interested in national politics and things like that about that time. But what really kicked me into high gear was Barack Hussein Obama. That's what kicked me into high gear, and I really started paying attention. And that's where I started getting vocal on social media, things like that, in regards to some of my frustrations. So I always tell people when I'm out in the community and I'm talking is that I'm like so many Alaskans, but really so many Americans, is that I feel powerless. I don't feel like I'm being represented by my legislators. And I sit at the couch and I turn on One American News or even Fox News, and I just scream at the TV. And then along comes Donald Trump, which I'm a supporter of. And along comes Joe Biden and the election of 2020. And I'm like, we're losing it. The country is slipping through our fingers. What can I do? And I looked at my situation. And I said, I can do this, and I'm smart enough to take the slings and arrows and the learning curve that comes with representing people with concerns like me, and that's exactly what I intend to do. So that's why.
I asked this question of all the candidates because for me, when I ran for office, it was one of my favorite parts, and it also gave me a lot of insight. I'm assuming that you've been out and about talking to people, knocking on doors, and talking to your constituents face to face, on their front porches. What's important to people? What are they talking about? Is it, PFD? Is it inflation? Is it the economy? Is it crime? Size and scope of government. What are they saying to you when you're out there talking to them face to face?
Yeah, Michael, I listened to Kevin's interview, and I kind of mirror a lot of what he said. But people do have an issue, obviously, of energy, the cost of energy, and the prices at the grocery store going up. People, on my rack card, first item on my rack card is the PFD. I do believe it should be paid, and I do get comments from people that they appreciate. They'll go through my rack card and they'll be like, yep, all that stuff. I do hear PFD comments, certainly hear the energy costs, a little bit about education and the perceived indoctrination, really not perceived, it's a fact. The things that are going on in the schools with some of this woke type indoctrination. Most recently, which is really when I started getting active, was around the COVID policy and the masking that we're seeing in the communities, and seemingly how media was guiding the narrative away from what we would discover through our own research, common man research, that just wasn't jiving. But of interest, I'd like to share this, is that I did walk up to a lot of houses, a decent number of houses, and I was one of those candidates, Michael, where I didn't have the fancy app where it would tell you where the Republican House is and who voted in the last few elections and all that stuff. And I understand the purpose of those apps, but what I chose to do was to knock on every door on a street, and I would talk to Democrats, and I would talk to independents and Republicans, of course. I didn't get a lot of doors slammed in my face from the people that didn't really agree with me. I had conversations, and I made that decision because I understand who I work for. Michael, I would, as a legislator, work for the people. And I would not only represent the conservative brand in District 35, I'd represent everybody. So whether or not I could align with some other people doesn't mean that I wouldn't be a good and thoughtful legislator for them.
Right.
But that's what I was hearing when I was out door knocking, and it was a really enjoyable experience. I've never run for office. It's the one thing, Michael, that I've enjoyed the most, is actually knocking on people's homes. But I'll finish with this: is that I was a home care respiratory therapist for years. I'm very comfortable at people's door. I talk well. I'm confident about what I believe in. And in some cases, I've been invited into the homes, but I'm very used to that. And so it is by far the most enjoyable activity I've done as a candidate.
We're coming up on the break here, but let's get into the first issue, which I think is one of the bigger ones. Obviously, education has become a keystone in this election. A lot of the talking points from candidates, especially in the moderate to liberal persuasion, has been how much we're neglecting education. We're underfunding it. We're doing all these things. And yet, if you look at the actual raw numbers, you'll see, again, the kind of the hockey stick thing over the last 20 years where we've spent exponentially ever increasing amounts of money. And yet scholastically, we're still at the bottom of the barrel. What is the solution in your mind? I mean, how do we fix it? Is there ways to make the educational budget smaller while increasing our scholastic achievement? Is it a money issue? Is it a systemic issue? What are your thoughts on education here? We got about 2.5, 3 minutes.
Yeah, Michael, I was publicly school trained here in Interior Alaska. Granted, it was only for my senior year, and then I obviously spent many years up at UAF. I do believe that, yeah, I understand that there's a massive call for more money. The BSA hasn't been increased. much above 3 or 4% since I think 2018, 2017, something like that. I see the flood of teachers out of schools, but what's more troubling to me is the flood of kids out of schools. Now, I think it's justified. So I'm absolutely open to school choice and allowing money to follow follow kids to areas of schooling and education that parents choose. I am absolutely I have no desire to end public schools. I believe that they have a place, but I also see what's been happening in the public school system. I do believe there's some trimming of the fat that can happen, but I also believe that there's probably some contracting issues that normal budgeting processes from Juneau doesn't really help. I believe this is a state, or the Constitution doesn't allow this, but these schools, when they crank up, they're signing, they're trying to get people hired, they're trying to get transportation set up, nutrition service, things like that. And I don't know if they know what money's been budgeted to them before they start doing things like this. So I sense there's a lot of inefficiencies that can probably be cleaned up in regards to that. But me personally, what fires me up is that look at math scores in the Fairbanks School District. I don't even know. I've read this somewhere, or I heard it somewhere, that UAF college students have horribly bad math scores, and they're having to take like a remedial math class just to be able to take beginning classes at the college level. I mean, people are screaming to increase the BSA, but what's wrong with considering this? Give us some outcome measures in regards to the basics, such as the math and the writing and the reading. I mean, let's see some performance versus trying to alter the minds of these people in regards to things like gender ideology and woke cancel culture and being so divisive. I mean, isn't that what we send our kids to school to do? I don't have any kids, so I'm a poor. I may know even less than I think I know, sadly. So that's kind of where I'm at on the whole education question.
All right, Ruben McNeill is our guest, GOP candidate for House District 35. We're going to continue with him here in just a moment, and we will pick things back up on the other side. The Michael Duke Show continues. It is your home for common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Back with more after this.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, in the break right now with Ruben McNeill, Ruben, I mean, I guess that's the question. I mean, we have, I think the declining enrollments is the one thing that we're talking about it and they get mentioned, but what I find ironic is they're like, well, we need more money, but you have less students. I mean, the Anchorage School District just admitted that, they had a 20% drop in kindergarten and first grade kind of enrollment. And they've got a 20% decline in the birth rate for kids who are, in the last couple of years. So that means it's going to decline even more going forward. Yet it's like, well, we need more money, but we have less students. We have higher overhead and more administrators, but we need more money. I mean, it's like 40% of the dollars are getting into the classroom, or 50% in the K through 12 school districts. And so a lot of it's being sucked up by this overhead. And of course, you've got the base student allocation feeds a lot of that overhead. So shouldn't we break these things open and start looking at, how do we get the dollars straight to the kids instead of going through all the overhead?
Yeah, Michael, I mean, you nailed it, bud. I mean, exactly. I think people look at me as an absolute grassroots. I've never run for political office, and I come in here with these big ideas, and they look at me with a side eye, and they're saying, this guy, he's out of his league. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But that there may be some truth to this, and I'll admit this, but I'm willing to work. I come from a working family. The hardest working people I've ever known were my sister and my father. But I'm not afraid of work, and I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid and easily intimidated to sit at a table with people that may have a lot more information, knowledge, and experience than I do, and say, listen, make this make sense to the people that we represent, because you represented me just a year ago. Okay. I mean, we're all budgeting in our homes, especially now with these ridiculous gas prices. I mean, I drove to Anchorage a couple of weeks ago with a friend, and I saw $6.57 in Cantwell. I about had a heart attack. I've never seen gas prices like that. So I mean, it's just nuts. But let's get to work, like you said so well. Let's pick this stuff apart. Okay. We have 90-day sessions. They've been going 120 days for God's sakes, with all the brilliant knowledge and experience that we keep sending back up to Juneau. Yet it's a flipping dumpster fire up there, especially last session. So I'm willing to get dirty on education. I'm willing to get dirty on all this stuff. I'll say this is that, when I started running, I talked to my father, and my father's, he's a principled man. He said, listen, run like this. You had a job when you went looking for this one. You'll have a job if you don't have this one, but be true to yourself, be true to your principles. Look a man in the eye and tell him the truth, and be prepared to work, and be prepared to upset people, because the decisions that need to happen across the board are tough decisions. And
Right.
Some people are going to benefit, others are going to hurt. And it's just the way it is. It's called adulthood.
Yeah, Ruben McNeill is our guest. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you got to look at these things and understand them specifically. I mean, the administrative costs in schools, again, if you look at it on a trend line, you'll see that the administrative costs have continued to climb while the enrollment has continued to. I mean, at some point we have to admit that something's fundamentally broken in the system. You know what I mean? That something is not working right. And we've got to be strong enough and brave enough to be able to say that and say, let's make some changes. And I think that's important, especially with the fact that it's the number 2 item in the budget as far as size and scope of the budget. We're going to go ahead quickly. I got 30 seconds.
Yeah. And listen, parents are waking up. And COVID woke up a lot of parents, okay, and they're not taking it anymore, and you can see it across the country. There's a turning tide coming here in our schools, and I think it's healthy, a little scary, but I actually think it's healthy. And
all right, that means we got to jump back into it. Here we go. Ruben McNeill is our guest. Candidate for House District 35. Please share this video, like and share, subscribe, ring the bell. Here we go. All right, we're continuing right now. Ruben McNeill is our guest. We were talking a bit about education here before we jump to the break. Let's move over to the PFD because we saw here, what we had, one of the largest PFDs we've had in quite a while, dollar-wise, although still not a full statutory PFD, and we've seen the effect on Alaskans and on the economy. Ruben, where do you stand on the PFD? What should we be doing with that? And what's your solution to try and fix the issue of the PFD?
Well, it's kind of funny is that if you talk to a candidate campaigning right now, hell, they're all for a full PFD. I mean, it's almost a death blow if you're not. Okay, but I'm actually really for a full statutory PFD. I mean, it's at the top of my rack card, and I think that money is constitutionally guaranteed and intended for the Alaskan people and should be paid. And I'm going to shock you, and I may appear extremely naive when I say this, but I actually believe that we should do serious work on the back pay since 2016. And I know I say that to people, especially people that are maybe in the party or in the political note, and their eyes glaze over. But I believe that if we get serious people in a room at a table, and we're heading in the same direction, we can work out a plan to make the Alaskan people whole on the dividend, going forward and in the past. That dividend should be paid first, and then we start budgeting process. Then we start the budgeting processes. I don't understand how it went off rails, and it's this nightmare that is now. There's some candidates here in Fairbanks in the interior here. They're like, a long-term fiscal plan. I don't think. Matter of fact, I would be willing to bet that you're not going to have a feasible long-term fiscal plan if you don't fix the dividend. I mean,
Right.
back before the Walker days, I remember this, and we all remember this who are Alaskans. September would roll around, and the governor would announce the dividend, and it was something that we looked forward to because we expected it. We knew it was done by a calculation and a process that was in statute and was the correct way, and the dividend would be paid, and we do the things with the money that we would do. We would pay down credit cards. We would go buy furniture. I would look at buying a gun if I could, things like that, make a car payment or two, things like that. That's all gone now. It's a big yoke around the legislature, and it's a wedge point, and it's now used as a tool. You say it all the time compression. I think you're exactly right on that, because there's clear evidence of that, and then I look at what is happening with inflation, and I got friends, I don't have any kids, but I got friends with wives and kids, and I'm doing the math on a PFD, and I'm like, that might get them through the winter with fuel costs and grocery costs.
Right.
But when we play these games where we prioritize government services over the people in regards to something that they're entitled to, and I hate the word entitled, but they're entitled to, it just seems really mean. It's things really thoughtless, and it just screams swamp. It just screams Juneau swamp. We got to take care of ours up at Juneau and screw the people. And it's just not wrong. And I know that this is a difficult thing, Michael, and that the solutions aren't easy, and that budgeting and deficits and things like that have to be considered. But it's going to take serious people making serious decisions to fix it. But I am absolutely for getting that dividend paid, and working on the back stuff, because it's all about honoring a promise and making the Alaskan people whole.
Ruben McNeill is our guest, House District 35 candidate under GOP. I want to talk a little bit here about ranked choice voting. I know that it's been kind of a contentious issue for many, especially in the conservative camp, where there was a lot of surprise that actually passed. And I think a lot of it had to do with the way that it was sold to Alaskans, quite honestly. But of course, we're left with playing within the system that we're given. And so the discussion comes up on, for example, ranking the red. In your district especially, you've got two Republicans, you and Kevin McKinley, who are running against each other. But in the end, under ranked choice voting, are you advocating for a ranking of the red? Are you advocating for, vote for you first and Kevin second, not ranking everybody else? What's your take on ranked choice, and what are you encouraging your voters to do?
No, you know what? I am supporting the rank the red approach in District 35 for sure. I think the candidate running on the Democrat ticket does not need to sit in office and make decisions for this district, even though she's one of the nicest people I've met, and her husband. But I am absolutely supporting the rank the red. If you can't do me in first choice, then do me second. And I heard an ad from Sarah Palin, and she said that, and I thought it was one of the one of the best ads for a rank the red approach, and I would like to mirror that. I am not running to lose. I want to win this seat, and I really want to represent my district in the ways that I communicate that I would. But it's important that we take this year, the year of Joey Biden, and leverage this in the hopes of switching this seat to red. And I've had multiple conversations with Mr. McKinley. He's a good businessman, and but I'm in this baby to win it. Okay, I want to shock the world. I want to shock Alaska, and I'm working to do that. And I want to get in a mix. I want a microphone, and I want to sit at the table with these people, and I want to say, make me believe this junk. Okay, let's, and then I want to throw my ideas as a common man out there. So I absolutely rank the red in District 35. So I think the how this thing got into effect was a joke. They say dark money, it'll control dark money. Good grief, if anything else, done the opposite, and then injected it with steroids. I mean,
that's like saying we can cure you of cancer by giving you more cancer. I mean, that's, it's kind of a shocking thing. We're running the clock out here, though, so I got one final question before I give you final thoughts, and that is my final question is, your first day in office, you get elected, you're going down there. What's going to be your priority as you step through the door down there? What are you looking at first?
Like I mentioned earlier, I want to tackle the dividend. I want to tackle the PFD. I want to identify and get with the people that are serious on this issue, and I want to address this. But we have to be realistic. I understand that throughput through the pipeline is down by 3/4. We need to develop this state. We need to get oil flowing through that pipeline again. We need to do the things that get the oil flowing again. Okay, that's our driver. That's our economic driver in this state. We all know it. Now, you can put a windmill on your house if you want to, but you're going to need that oil at some point. Okay, you need to either drive to work, you need to heat your house, or buy something that's plastic. I mean, I don't know, but we need to stop doing things, Joey, to kill the oil industry in this country, in this state. I mean, there's a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of jobs for Alaskans to prosper under. So let's do that. Let's do things. A lot of them, some of the mining projects and port builds and things like that, or port expansions, whatever. Yes, obviously, okay, but we got to trim the fat in this budget. We need to get dirty in these departments and these nonprofit corporations underneath these departments that just get money flowing into them with no accountability, and we need to stop that stuff. And these supplemental budgets and this supplemental money, and they're coming back to the well. No, absolutely not. Why don't we look at doing hard cuts? Board cuts. Why don't we do stuff like that and really do the hard work? And I'm for it. And that's what I'm ready to do.
Ruben McNeill, our guest, House District 35 candidate on the GOP ticket. Ruben, final thoughts here, last couple minutes, give you a chance for your elevator pitch. Why should people vote for you versus your opponents? And how do they find out more about you, et cetera? So you got about 2 minutes here.
Yeah, really quick. So I want to talk a little bit about a forum that was done, sponsored by the NAACP, and a question that was asked of the attendees. I did not attend this forum, but I was invited. I had a scheduling conflict. Anyhow, a question was asked of the attendees, one being Ashley Carrick and Kevin McKinley. Okay, that would they be allowed to codify? Would they be willing to codify into law as a legislator absolute reproductive freedom? Let me say that again. This was a question asked of adults. Would you codify into law absolute reproductive freedom. Now, Kevin actually came first and asked for clarification on this question because it probably shocked him about as much as I did when listening to it. And he got clarification that it was all, pretty much all the above, all inclusive. And he, of course, said no. God bless him. Ashley Carrick came after and said yes. Okay. Now, I'm not going to put words into Ashley Carrick's mind or heart, but I know what absolute reproductive freedom means to me. And that should scare the absolute, out of everybody. Okay. Final thoughts is, please, as nice as she is, don't put this young lady into office. You have options. You have myself and you have Kevin McKinley. We are advocating a rank the red, pick your poison, and go for it. As far as my campaign, I am small fries. I don't have a lot of money. I do have a website. It's rubenforalaska.com, rubenforalaska.com. If I had money, I would buy ad time and I would spread this message that I've shared with you, Michael, all across the airways. But I don't have the means. But boy, this opportunity that you've given me has been appreciated, and I thank you so much. And that's my elevator pitch. I know who I work for. I know who I would be working for as a legislator, and I intend to do that. I'm a conservative, and that's how I'll operate.
All right, RubenForAlaska.com. I put links up in the chat room for folks who want to check it out and take a look at it. Ruben McNeill, we appreciate you coming on board. Thanks for being part of the show today, and we wish you luck on Election Day, which is just 15 days away. So thank you for coming on board this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Hold the line for a second, folks. We're out of time. We got more coming up. We'll take some calls, have some commentary, and more in the final segment of the show this morning. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break right now. Final thoughts. Bite at the apple, the last one. I'd like to give candidates one more shot in case there was something that I didn't hit on, something that you wanted to expand on, or anything else. We got about 2 or 3 minutes here, Ruben. So I'll give you the floor and let me know what you want to say. You get the final bite at the apple here.
Michael, again, thank you so much for the invite. I've wanted a microphone to do exactly what I think I've done this morning. I am I'm an American. Okay. I love the colors. When I see the flag waving, it does something to me. When I hold my hand over my heart and I sing the national anthem and the Star Spangled Banner, and I listen to the words of that anthem. It wells up inside of me. I'm an American. I believe we need to bring a little bit of American values back to Alaska. Faith, family, hard work, the American way, opportunity. The can-do spirit. And I'm so proud I'm so proud and feel blessed to be an American, to live in the most beautiful place in the world, Alaska, to gather up my hunting gear and my fishing gear and get out in this land and do the things that I love and enjoy. It's an absolute blessing, and I want to cherish it. I want to protect it. And I want to make the experience even better. I think that there's things going on in Juneau. We all call it the swamp at my level, and I want to get in the middle of it, and I want to go to work. And I had a gentleman stop by my booth at the Winter Expo this weekend, and I think, and he admitted that he's gone to all the candidate booths, and he said, "Who do you work for? Who do you work for?" Okay. You don't work for government. You work for us. You work for the people that elected you. And if you make it up there, you may forget a lot of things, but if you don't forget that one, you're going to win. And the Alaskan people will see it. And I took his words to heart, but that's been my approach the whole time. I'm just a regular guy, and I care enough to do this. The whole experience has really opened up my eyes. It's pulled me out of my comfort zone, and it's just been good for me. And I've met some really wonderful people. Michael, there you go. There it is, right there. Bite at the apple. Vote
All
for
right.
RubenForAlaska.com. Rank me first, but definitely rank the red. RubenForAlaska.com. Thank you so much, Michael.
Appreciate it, Ruben. Thanks for coming on board. Ruben McNeill, GOP candidate for House District 35. Again, saying rank the red, rank him, rank Kevin, either or, one of the two, both, whichever position you want to put him in, and see if we can get that district to get back to the Republican hands. Thank you, Ruben. Appreciate you coming on board. We will wish you luck, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks a lot, Michael.
Appreciate it. All right, folks, that does that. Puts us back where we need to be. Let me jump back over here to the phones and get things lined up for phone calls this morning. We want to, of course, remind you that this hour of the program being brought to you by Satellite West. We'll talk more about that here in just a hot second. And I guess I should let me fire the phones up here because hold your ears. Let's make sure it doesn't peak everything out here again. One more time.
Thanks for calling the call-in line of the Michael Duke Show, powered and sponsored by...
All right, so phone lines are now open and live. I'm glad I didn't say anything. It went from... it like doubled up. It was going to blow your eardrums out. All right, so we're ready to go here. We've got the phone lines up and running, and we're going to take some calls from you and see what you guys have to say here in just a hot second. And see what your thoughts are. Right now, I'm hopeful that with a ranking of the red in that district, we might be able to turp it over. So whichever candidate you found to be the most compelling, if you're living in that district, well, then you know who to vote number one, and then the other vote number two. That's how it works. We got to work the system. So, all right, all right. I'm going back into the comment section here. Man, somebody's full of P&V this morning. 20 seconds out. Let's get ready to jump back into this and take some of your calls and see what you have to say. There's already a question in here that I'm going to talk about from Gordon on YouTube. He asked a question earlier. We'll get back to that here in just a second. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Okay. Welcome back to the program. One final segment of the show this morning. Being brought to you by your friends over there, of course, at Satellite West. You can find them at satellitewest.com. When it comes to communications in the state of Alaska, they got you covered. I mean, it doesn't matter where you are. You could be everywhere from Ignik to King Salmon, and they will find you a way to be connected for texting, for phone calls, for emails, for internet. That's what they do. They're experts on that. Satellite West. Proud sponsors of the show. You could find them at satellitewest.com. Okay, we're going to open up the phone lines and take some calls from you, the listeners, this morning. I do have one set of questions that Gordon on YouTube brought up this morning. He was asking about some ranked choice voting, so I want to get into that and clarify it. But let's take some calls first to see what you have to say and see what's on your mind this morning with candidates or anything else that we've covered. We'll go over here and start fresh. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Randy in Fairbanks.
Good morning, Randy. What's on your mind?
Well, I just want to say I sure do appreciate you coming up to Fairbanks and running the gun show that was joining the Go Winter show. And I also appreciate that you answered some of my gun questions in person when I told you about my run-in with that fox there.
No problem.
Appreciate your info and insight on that. And also in the big main room there, the Go Winter Expo, I had my own booth, which was a lot of fun. I Saturday and Sunday there, in which I talked about my proposal for getting 2 PFD checks per year. And I had 4 giant posters on the back wall there, and a lot of people stopped and read those posters, and I handed out a lot of my pamphlets, and it was a really good experience, and I appreciate the whole thing.
Well, good. I mean, it's one thing, Randy and I, you and I don't agree on a lot of this stuff with the PFD, but I've always admired the fact that you've always been willing to put your money where your mouth is and do what you need to do. And so I appreciate you participating one way or the other. Like I say, we might not agree, but at least you're willing to pony up the dollars to stand behind your beliefs. So I appreciate that. And what was the general reaction to your 2 PFD strategy that you've talked about?
Well, I got a lot of interest, and seems like more on Sunday, kind of like. And some people said, "Oh, yeah, I agree with that." And one lady talked about the military, coming and going and getting the full PFD, and she wasn't quite. She didn't quite like that all that much, but I like the military. But anyway, I advocate both kinds of PFDs. Also, just now, Harold wrote in the chat room and said that proposal of mine has already been found to be unconstitutional. Well, my proposal, the whole idea of my proposal is how to get around that. That he probably hadn't had a chance to read my proposal, but I had good response and really enjoyed it.
All right. Well,
the only thing, by the way, let me just say, one thing that I was hoping for was a good, strong difference in opinion. I don't know if people are just like to be nice, they don't want to get into a big debate or something, but I really would have appreciated somebody coming in and saying, I think you're wrong and here's why, and that would have really been charged my battery there.
Right, exactly. All right, Randy. Well, thank you for calling in. Appreciate it. And again, thanks for calling the show this morning. All right. That's it for Randy there. If you'd like to call in, the phone lines are now open at 907-433-3150. 907-433-3150. We'd love to hear from you this morning and get your point. Gordon asked a question earlier on in the program. He said, I thought that I remembered that you had an expert that stated that rank all of the choices or your vote can be nullified. Do I understand that correctly? And he went on to say that you had that expert on ranked choice voting earlier this year. And he was asking this question about ranked choice voting. Here's the thing. You do not have to rank every candidate to have your vote nullified. That's not what he was talking about. He was talking specifically about bullet voters who voted for one person only. Now, that's not to say that you have to absolutely rank every candidate. For example, I will not be ranking every candidate on the governor's ballot. I will be ranking Charlie Pierce and Mike Dunleavy. I will not be ranking Les Guerra or Bill Walker. That doesn't mean that my vote will be nullified. My vote can be exhausted. And the danger, of course, with a single voter like what they call bullet voters is that they can then miss all the subsequent rounds of voting if their candidate is eliminated. And it gives a higher percentage of exhausted ballots with the bullet voters, so to speak. So his recommendation was, of course, vote for the candidates that you can support, but don't vote for the candidates that you can't support, kind of thing. So yeah, you do not have to fill out every ballot, every position for every candidate. ranking the red is basically saying that. So if you've got 2 candidates or 3 candidates, then you should rank those candidates and then move on. Again, I'm doing the same thing in the congressional race. I'm ranking Chris Bai and Nick Begich and Sarah Palin because those are the 3 candidates that I can get behind. I won't be ranking Peltola on that ballot. That's how I've got going on. All right, let's go over to the phones here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Charles in Fairbanks. I got a question. I hope I got a good signal, but Tom Paine wrote a book, Agrarian Justice, 1797, I believe. Wonder if anybody's used that as a reference. I don't hear any references to that book. He proposed a citizen's dividend, a lot of things similar to our PFD, and maybe Randy could spend some time reading that and give us all his experienced information from all his knowledge.
Thomas Paine, Agrarian Justice. Okay, well, I appreciate it. I hadn't heard of it.
Tom Paine.
Tom Paine.
Tom Paine, Agrarian Justice.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Charles. I appreciate it. Let's go over here to the next caller. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Mike calling over from Chena Ridge area. Yeah, I was just wondering, Mike, do you know the ratio of Murkowski versus Shabaka commercials being run right now? And where is Murkowski getting all their money for all these commercials? I was just wondering, how many commercials does Murkowski run in a 24-hour period? I was wondering if you knew that.
Well, I don't know the 24-hour period. I did look at some of the political filings that were done with some of the local stations here recently. And from what I saw, Murkowski has been placing commercials and buys at approximately 10-1 for what Kelly has.
Wow.
10-1. And then that doesn't include, by the way, the Senate Leadership Fund or the Friends of Lisa PAC as well. They've also been placing. In fact, the Senate Leadership Fund had placed more buys. I don't know about the dollar figure, but they'd placed more individual buys than Lisa Murkowski's own campaign had. And so you're seeing Kelly Shabaka with all the PACs and everything, probably conservative somewhere 25-1 right now is what you're seeing between the candidate and all the PACs going on out there. It's been, I'll be honest, it's been a little disappointing. I'd like to see a little bit more exposure for Kelly out there in those regards. Maybe it's going through on digital, Facebook and YouTube or so, whatever. But I'm seeing a lot of stuff in radio and television for Murkowski versus Shabaka. In fact, in Fairbanks alone, this is a staggering number. In Fairbanks alone, over a 5-week period, the Senate Leadership Fund on a single television station spent $353,000 on a single television station over about a 5-week period. That ought to be enough to just make you go, whoa. Anyway, thanks, Mike. I'm sorry we're out of time. Folks, we got to go tomorrow. Brad Keithley. Chris Story won't be with us, but we may have Mayor Charlie Pierce with us. We'll see what happens with that. Thanks for coming in and joining us. We got to go. The Michael Dukes Show. Be kind, love one another, live well. We'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, you could go out and look... You could go out and look at the political files. The FCC has an archive of all the political files that the stations are required to file by law when they receive a political buy or an issue buy or a PAC buy. And I was just perusing some of them, and I saw that the local Fairbanks station, in a 6-week period with one buy, $353,000 from the Senate Leadership Fund. Wow. That's like half a year's revenue for one radio station. That's one radio station. That's like a third to a half of a year's revenue in one single buy. It's crazy stuff. Anyway, that's it for today, folks. Again, Brad Keithley tomorrow. Chris Story sent me a text this morning, said he can't make it, so we'll see if we can get Charlie Pierce on for tomorrow to talk about all the campaign chicanery and more. Appreciate you guys coming on board and joining us. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Dukes Show.